Since the start of October, they have been dropping sneak peeks twice a week, and every single one of them is leading up to the highly anticipated major update, version 2.3. This update has been shaping up to be one of the most exciting yet, and these previews have definitely reignited the hype across the entire community. Players are theorizing, discussing, and counting down the days, and honestly, I'm right there with you. If you're new here, I'm Janeda, and today we're going to take a deep dive into every sneak peek released throughout October 2025, breaking them down piece by piece, sharing thoughts, reactions, and what these changes could mean for the game moving forward. So, grab a snack, sit back, and let's take a look at everything that's been revealed. This is the first sneak peek for the upcoming major update. Right away, you can notice a change here. Unlike previous sneak peeks, starting with this one, we now see the update version displayed in the bottom left corner along with the branding in the top left. A nice clean touch that adds a more official feel to the sneak peeks. Now, looking at the image itself, the station features two platforms with bypass tracks running through the center. An HST is seen passing straight through, which suggests that the core track layout and the service behavior here remain familiar. In the background, we can spot a signaling box, some housing its shops, and even a car park up front, showing more detail and development around the station area. With all these visual clues, it's pretty clear that we're looking at upgraded Starryloch station, and the title given, "The First Place to Get a New Lodge," confirms it. A redesigned Starryloch, a great start for this update. Moving on to the next sneak peek, here we have a Class 350 operating near the Stepford depot, heading toward West Wyvern, and there's something pretty exciting here. If you look closely, this is the first Connect train confirmed to receive a double unit variant, bringing it up to a total of 8 cars. The title, "Twice as many seats," pretty much seals the deal on that upgrade. This is a big step for Connect, especially for players who enjoy running longer and more realistic commuter services. However, there is one limitation to point out. This 8-car version will only be available to players who own the Longer Trains Game Pass, since any unit exceeding 7 cars falls under that requirement. Still, this is a really exciting addition and a nice power-up for Connect services in the upcoming update. Another important detail to notice is on the interior display. It shows Ellesmere, with the final destination being West Wyvern. Now, if you're familiar with SCR's version 2.2, you'd know that Connect services passing through Ellesmere currently terminate at Morganstown. They don't continue all the way to West Wyvern. So, this implies a pretty big routing change. Connect trains may soon pass through Morganstown and then continue onward toward West Wyvern. That alone suggests that the Morganstown area is likely receiving major upgrades or track adjustments to support this new service pattern. Possible changes could include improvements to Morganstown stations, modifications to the Triangle Junction, and maybe even the Hampton Hogg station. The junction layout near Morganstown is already one of the most complex in the network, and adding more Connect traffic will only make signaling more challenging. With that in mind, I'm really hoping they refine the track layout and signaling in that area, not only to support these new services, but to make life a bit easier for signalers managing those. The next sneak peek appears to showcase another upgraded station. In the image, we can see 2 trains, a Metro Class 756 heading up to an unspecified destination, and a double unit Connect Class 350, which we saw in the previous sneak peek, this time bound for Airport Central. In the background, there are several tall buildings, and if they look familiar, that's because they match the high-rise buildings found in the Beechley Triangle. With that visual clue combined with the updated station layout, it's very likely that this is an upgraded Beechley station, which is currently one of the oldest stations in the game still waiting for a model overhaul. There are a few key details to pay attention to here, so let's start by looking at the station layout itself. This station features 4 platforms, but unlike the current version, platforms 3 and 4 no longer have buffers. That's an important change, because in the old version, those platforms are terminal tracks. Now check the signals. Platforms 1 and 4 appear to be one-way, while platforms 2 and 3 are bi-directional. What that suggests is that platforms 2 and 3 can be used for both through services and terminating services, giving trains the ability to arrive, turn around, and depart in the opposite direction. To put it simply, the track layout here functions very similarly to Stepford Central's metro platforms, offering a much more flexibility for routing, reversing, and handling busier traffic flow. Aside from the station upgrades, there's another interesting detail. The distance between the station and the Beechley triangle appears noticeably shorter compared to the current version. Right now, the Beechley sidings sit between the station and the triangle, and many players recognize that area for the Class 357 generator and SPAD sidings. With this new layout, the big question is, what happens to the Beechley sidings? There are a few possibilities. It could be removed, relocated, or potentially repositioned right beside the station, and if it does stay, it's very likely we'll see a visual upgrade to match the new environment. Now, take a close look at the left side of the image. There's an extra overhead wire running off the main tracks. That could be a hint toward a new siding location, possibly suggesting that the sidings will be moved but still remain nearby. The junctions in the background also appear to be redesigned. There's a track that branches off in the new direction. We'll talk more about that later in this video, but it already suggests that a significant change to the network layout in this area. I'm really hoping that we'll see upgrades to the Beechley triangle and the surrounding tracks as well. Right now, it's one of the most congested parts of the network, with both Connect and Metro services constantly passing through. Any improvements here will make a huge difference in reducing bottlenecks and improving flow. The next sneak peek shows a Connect Class 185, which is known as a QT training train, departing Airport Central and heading towards Beechley, which was featured in the previous sneak peek. Taking a closer look at the train, this confirms that the Class 185 will also be receiving a double unit variant. Unlike the double Class 350 though, the Class 185 has been a 3-car train in SCR, so doubling it brings it to 6 cars, meaning it does not fall under the longer trains Game Pass. Good news for players who don't own it. For reference, the earning version of the Class 185 has already had a double unit variant for a very long time, so it's nice to see Connect catching up and expanding more of its fleet options. Interestingly, if you look closely at the background, there's another train at the platform. Judging by the portion of the front design visible in the screenshot, it could very likely be a double unit Class 385. It's not fully clear, but the shape and window styling seems to match that trend pretty closely. As for the area itself, nothing stands out as new. Airport Central has already been upgraded since version 1.10, so the focus of this sneak peek appears to be purely on rolling stock. This sneak peek gives us a brand new look at Morganstown, and based on what we're seeing, this update might be gearing up to be the biggest overhaul since version 1.7, and honestly, this one instantly sparked the debate in the community. Are we looking at a massive upgrade, or did SCR just downgrade Morganstown in real time? At first glance, the new style feels a lot more minimalistic compared to the current sleek, glass-heavy design. The current Morganstown has that futuristic, premium look, clean lines, modern architecture, and one of the most memorable station aesthetics in the entire network. So seeing a more toned-down, traditional suburban style is surprising. It almost feels like a step back visually. But before we judge, there are some functional changes hiding in plain sight. First major thing, 5 tracks. This layout looks built for a combination of through services and terminating platforms, likely handling both Metro and Connect trains. And unlike the current version, this design leans way more toward efficient through running instead of Morganstown acting as a major turnback point. Why does that matter? Let's rewind to an earlier sneak peek. When we zoom in on the train displays, we saw a Connect service calling at Ellesmere and then heading toward West Wyvern. Right now in version 2.2, Connect services from Ellesmere terminate at Morganstown, meaning this update might let Connect trains push all the way to Leighton, West Wyvern, and even Lane by the Sea. And if that's true, Morganstown absolutely needed a redesign to support that. Looking at the background, the track layout is clearly different. Hopefully, that means smoother flow, fewer blocks, and no more Morganstown Spaghetti Junction chaos. Now, there's one thing to keep in mind. There's a track merge before the bridge. If fast trains stack up behind slower ones, we could still see congestion. So, this update could either solve long-standing traffic issues or introduce new ones. At this point, we're entering a trust the process era. To be fair, outside the layout changes, the scenery around the station still looks really solid. I still like how it feels, it's just a different style. But we have to say goodbye to the current version of the station. The next sneak peek shows 2 trains running to a forest area, which likely places this somewhere along the Willowfield branch. Taking a closer look at the units, These are the double unit Class 385s, making up to 8 cars total, something we already saw hinted at in a previous sneak peek. Just like the double Class 350, this train will be locked behind the longer train's game pass. The train in the background appears to be heading toward Port Benton, while the train on the opposite track is traveling in the other direction. And since that track only leads to one terminus, it's very likely heading toward Willowfield. There's not a lot happening in this sneak peek visually, but it does strongly suggest that the Willowfield branch is in line for an overhaul, potentially including both Willowfield Station and its depot. One thing I've always felt about this area in the current version is that the gaps between stations are quite long, especially for a slower operator like Metro. So hopefully this update brings tighter spacing or overall improvements to make the branch feel more engaging to drive. One idea that comes to my mind is adding new stations between the existing ones to better suit Metro's stopping pattern and bringing connect services back to Hampden Park. That would add a lot more variety and purpose to this section of the network. These sneak peeks reveal two things: a brand new Metro station and a clip showing functional TRTS boxes. Let's start with the station. At first glance, this looks like a completely new Metro station featuring an overpass with houses and buildings in the background. What's interesting is that this station doesn't match any existing Metro stations in the game, so that instantly raises the question, where exactly is this? If we examine the buildings behind the station, they match the ones found near Financial Quota. And if you go just outside that area in-game, you'll find that the red building seen in older versions has been removed, exactly like in the sneak peek. We can also spot overhead wires running toward Financial Quota, which supports this location further. All of this strongly suggests that this station is part of a Metro extension branching from City Hospital and Beechley. Now, speaking of Beechley, remember the sneak peek showing a track branching off near that station? That track likely leads to this new station. As for where the extension goes after that, we don't have enough clues yet. It could be the long speculated Stepford Loop, or simply a brand new branch. But the Stepford Loop theory doesn't fully add up, since the new line splits between Financial Quota and the Beechley Triangle, not Stepford Victoria. So the layout doesn't line up perfectly with that idea, at least not yet. Also, if we look closely, we can see character models on the platform, specifically SCR managers. Some players speculated this as AI passengers, but if you check the file name, these are still player avatars. To me, it honestly looks like the manager intentionally blocked the station signage to hide the station name, which, knowing the community, will result in thousands of hilarious name guesses and theories until released. Now let's move on to the video. This clip was taken inside Roblox Studio, and while there isn't much going on around the studio, it does reveal something pretty exciting on the gameplay itself: a physical TRTS system. Instead of triggering TRTS using the dispatch UI on the right side of the screen, it looks like we'll soon be pressing actual TRTS boxes located at the platforms. There's also a TRTS pop-up indicator visible, showing where each box will be positioned when dispatching trains at a specific platform. This could hint at upcoming operational changes, especially for dispatchers who will now interact with the TRTS boxes directly in-game rather than relying solely on the UI. Aside from that, there isn't much more to take away from the sneak peek, but the shift to physical TRTS alone is a pretty big deal for realism and operations. Also, I have no idea why the cover on the TRTS box is swinging back and forth. It's a bit weird. Either way, it caught my attention. Overall, I'm really excited about these features and everything we've seen so far. These sneak peeks are building a ton of hype, and I honestly can't wait to experience all of this in the upcoming version 2.3 update. That wraps up all the sneak peeks for October 2025, but there's still more coming in November, so make sure to stay tuned. If you don't want to miss any future sneak peeks and breakdowns, consider subscribing. It really helps out and I'd appreciate it. If you enjoyed this video as well, make sure to leave a like. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.